March 9th, Casper Tin Boom.
Welcome to 365 Christian Men, where every day we aim to inspire and encourage with real-life stories about men.
Casper was a Dutch watchmaker. More significantly, he was a devout Christian who maintained a prayer tradition that had begun before he was born. Casper's parents had started assembling believers to pray for Jerusalem and for Jewish people around the world. With his father, Casper led 5,200 intercessory prayer meetings over a span of 100 years for Jerusalem and the ancient people of God. The last of those prayer meetings occurred on this date in 1944, when Casper died in a Nazi prison. When evil descends, a man of conviction stands up. When the Nazis occupied Holland in 1940, 84-year-old Casper Tin Boom lived as he always had, a life of love and faith in action, upstairs above his watch shop. The only difference was higher stakes. Affectionately nicknamed Haarlem's Grand Old Man, Casper refused to leave the side of his neighbors when they were forced to take the dreaded yellow star, identifying them as Jews. "Go home," his friends urged. But Casper wouldn't budge. "If it is good enough for God's chosen people to suffer," he said, "then it is good enough for me to suffer with them." When Casper returned home later that day, he handed the star to his daughter Betsy. "Could you sew this onto my coat?" Corey cried, "No, Father." In a passionate discussion, Casper's daughters convinced him there were better ways to help the Jews. Casper lovingly placed the fabric star in the pages of his Bible. Soon, Jewish people knocked on Casper's door. His home became a haven where Jews hid until more secure arrangements could be made through the Dutch underground. Planning for a likely Gestapo raid, Casper installed a secret room upstairs. Building materials were smuggled in: a level stuck in a sock, 2 or 3 bricks like loaves of bread in a basket. They called the room Angel's Den. On February 28, 1944, minutes before the Gestapo stamped to the 3rd floor, 6 people slipped into the secret room. One group of officers splintered floorboards and searched for hollow walls, and another group beat Casper and his family and demanded information about Jewish people. Casper tasted blood, and his head throbbed as he leaned heavily upon his daughters. The Gestapo shoved them through the dark streets of Haarlem and held them in a crowded gymnasium. As they awaited their fate, Casper did what he did every night. He prayed and shared scripture. He had no Bible, but his steady, faithful voice recited Psalm 91, verses 1 and 2. "He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I will trust." The next morning, Casper was told he could go home if he stopped sheltering Jews. Casper stood erect, his white hair a halo. "If I go home today, tomorrow I will open my door again to any man in need who knocks." Fury replaced compassion, and the Nazis thrust Casper and the daughters he loved into a concrete courtyard to await imprisonment. As Casper was taken from her, Corey cried, "God go with you, and also with you, my daughters." It was their last loving exchange. After 9 days in Scheveningen prison, Casper died. But the 6 people hidden in his home escaped. 3 of them survived the war. During the Nazi occupation of Holland, the Tin Booms and their friends rescued more than 800 people, Jewish people and non-Jewish members of the Dutch underground. Extraordinary times demand extraordinary action. But Casper Tin Boom didn't suddenly step into greatness. He had prepared long before. "The cornerstone of my father's character," wrote Corey, "was his steady and consistent walk with the Lord, his knowledge of and trust in the Bible. He believed the Bible was relevant for every part of his daily life. When evil descends, a man of conviction stands up. Will you?
Thank you for listening to today's story. Every day of the year, our hope is to inspire you with real-life stories of faithful men who have gone before us. For today's story, we have a free one-page group discussion sheet available on our website. Please join us tomorrow for another story at 365christianmen.com.